Yes, so this is my podcast, and very pleased to meet you. We've spoken on the messaging on Facebook, and I'm very grateful we've made a connection. And obviously, the circumstances of the meeting are difficult, I guess, because someone that's sadly passed away. A massive influence on many people, a huge person in the Taekwondo world, Grandmaster Jong Soo Park.
Yes, sir. It really deeply saddens me. This is like it's like losing my father. You know, it's.
Yes, yeah, and you know, it became clear to me once I started to speak with you and see your profile and just how much you were with him and the things that you were saying a few months ago helped me to understand your connection with him and his influence on yourself and your family and like you said, as a father.
Yeah, he. I guess the way I feel about it is, I mean, the reason I wanted to do this is because it's about him and definitely not about me. In the world of Taekwondo, you know, Grandmaster Park was this titan, this huge figure. And as much as I spent time with him and the stories he would tell me and the things we would talk about, until we began putting together things for his farewell celebration, again, it just began to remind me. At first, I was like, oh, the thousands of people that he touched. And then I thought, man, it's tens of thousands of people that he touched. And then, you know, and I started thinking, I said, it may have been millions, you know, when you start looking at the different pictures and videos and all the places he went. It's, you know, I'm not trying to belittle anybody else. And I have a tendency to say what's on my mind sometimes, which isn't always a good thing. But, you know, of all the pioneers, of all the great people that are out there, it seems like there was only one of him and only one like him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned before, I was fortunate to meet him by chance. I was at a General Tae seminar, IIC, on the last day. Grandmaster Park was there. I didn't know who he was, but we were introduced, and I did get to meet him because I asked for my encyclopedia to be signed. And he was by the side of General Tae, and he looked across and he said, "Oh, that's very nice what he's written there," because it was in calligraphy. He signed it for me, but I was instantly touched by his approachability, his kindness, his attentiveness to me. You know, just a guy that, you know, another student, and we shook hands, and he kindly had a photograph with me. Yeah, and you know, like you said, he's touched many people. It touched me. I never forgot that. I realized soon after, some people came and spoke to me and said, "Do you know who that was?" And they explained to me, one of the greatest Taekwondo practitioners, if not the greatest. I was like, wow.
Yes, I kind of called him the common man's grandmaster because, again, I'm not trying to say anything about anybody else, but I mean, I have met many grandmasters, and many times very unapproachable, very aloof. Grandmaster Park was just the opposite. You know, like you said, you probably thought you're talking, you felt like you're just talking to an average guy, and then you begin to do your work in history and watch videos. It's like, oh my God. You know, I'm almost glad I didn't know that when I met him, because I probably would have said something stupid or done something stupid.
Sorry. Yeah, but there was certainly a lot of people there had a lot to say, and they told me about his physical ability and just you know, what that aura he had inside the dojang.
He could have afforded to have an attitude or had a less humble approach to life, but he was always so humble because you know what? I guess he just didn't ever have to use his words because his actions were always so strong. Something so simple as maybe being at a testing, and then to explain something, I remember he would get off the chair, take his suit coat off, take his watch off, and the one dojang was upstairs, and it was, concrete floor, and he would just stand up, have a maki, do a low block, and the whole place would shake, and he would realize, oh my God, for 1 second I thought I was getting this right, I just lost all confidence in myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So how did you first meet the Grandmaster? How did you become?
I started out, my first original foray into serious martial art training was Ishinru. And in Ishinru, I really liked it, but I was in sort of a very strange school. We can talk about that some other day. It's not about me today. And so long story short, the school closed. And my Ishinru instructor was always talking about Taekwondo people, and how Taekwondo was coming. It was just coming around to our area. It hadn't even been here yet. Korean karate. And, so I went in the phone book and I just looked for a Taekwondo instructor, and I found a really good one. His name was C.S. Kim, Chung Soo Kim.
Yeah.
And he eventually moved to the Philippines. And so I was left without a Taekwondo instructor. Just then, one of Grandmaster Park's students moved into the area and opened a school. So I switched from the WTF to the ITF. And I really was looking for an ITF school only because in some of the tournaments, I just felt I was very limited in my use of hands and things. And I watched some of Grandmaster Park students. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are fighting beautifully, in total control. And they're happy, they're smiling. It's just like, it was really strange. So when I got a chance, I tested my second Dan up in Toronto with Grandmaster Park. That's the first time that we met. And throughout the years, I would go up to test, and we would meet each other and see each other at tournaments. And then finally, long story short, in 2012, he said, would you consider being my full-time student? And I was floored.
Yeah.
I said, well, sir, I'm going to be honest here. I said, I am honored, but I'm not a big fan of what I've seen of the sine wave. And he said, show me sine wave. So I showed him. I said, well, I don't know how to do it. He goes, show me what you see. So I did. He goes, well, that's wrong. And I said, but that's what I see. And he said, well, that's what they're doing, but they're not doing it right. And I said, oh. And so I kept looking at him. He goes, I'd make a deal with you, sir. He goes, you come to Toronto and train with me free of charge 2-3 times a month. And if I don't convince you in the first 3 months that sine wave is the way to go, I'll teach you the other way. I'm thinking in my mind, win-win situation. I'm probably not going to like it. He's still going to teach me. I'm going to be happy. And I went up there, and I diligently worked it. I trained hard. And after the first 2 lessons, I'm like, I'm starting to feel it. And then within a month, I said, all right, you got me. And I don't know, we became such good friends after that. Maybe because I was staying overnight and we were spending so much time together, and meals, coffee, training. And a typical weekend would be I'd go up there on Friday, and we would train Friday afternoon. We'd have a quick cup of coffee. Then I would help teach his classes Friday night. Then we would stay Friday night and train afterwards. Saturday morning, I would get up, and once he got to know me, he said, you can teach me. I would teach for him in the noon class, and then we would stay and train some more. Dinner. Next my Sunday, same thing. Sunday, I would go in and train Sunday all day with him, and then leave with more than I could handle. I videoed most of the sessions, so I still have them.
Wow.
But I think through all that contact, we just forged a pretty nice relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up.
Yeah, of course, sir. No, take all the time you need, sir. Yeah, no.
So, anyways.
Yeah.
We had, this went on for years.
Yeah, so
that pattern.
A very special bond between the two of you.
To the point, just the point where, I could say, I would never, but I'll give you a great example of what a great guy he was. So I was in his dojo, and we were doing my private lesson, and somebody came in to sign up. So he said, Master, would you mind practicing a little bit while I talk to this person? I thought, of course, sir. So I put my hands, I got ready to go, and I was getting ready to do Sejong Tool. So I go, say Jong. He stops and turns around. He goes, yes. And I said, nothing, sir. He goes, oh, okay. So he starts to walk away, and I go, say Jong. He turns around. And he goes, what would you like, Master Garino? I said, sir. He goes, you called my name twice. I said, no, sir. And he said, you said, say Jong. I go, you mean you think I'm calling? He goes, you think I'm calling you Jong? He goes, yes. He thought I was saying, say Jong, could you help me?
Right, right.
In what world did you think I would ever call you by your first name?
Yeah.
You may. And I'm like, I may not. I cannot. Thank you. Take care of your appointment. So he was just that guy.
Yeah. He never took offense to something like that, even though it didn't actually happen.
No, but I mean, that's just how he was. And I
Yeah.
mean, you can call me that. It's like, no, I can't. And but that's just kind of the way he was. So that's how I met him, and that's basically how we began this trek.
So this is his original school. Is this where he was?
This was his school on Yonge Street in Toronto. I was in 3 schools with him in Toronto. He had one upstairs on Yonge Street.
Yeah.
And moved across the street, and that one was downstairs. And then he closed that school because Toronto, being as crazy it is with the real estate, they sold the whole block, and we moved him over to Danforth Street and the Greek section of town. And then he also had a school in Scarborough, Ontario. So those were the last 2 schools that we were going in. And then eventually, when he became ill, one of his Canadian students took over his Scarborough school.
Yeah. I've heard from other masters that they used to, if they came to Canada, they would try and make their way to train with him in one of his schools. Did you see that happening when you were there? Did you see visitors?
Yes, he would have sparring sessions on Saturdays, and people would come from all over,
right,
to train and spar. And he was open to everybody and anything, any martial art. Very inclusive type of person, especially for Taekwondo. Very inclusive and very open to things.
Yeah.
And there would always, if I'm taking classes with him, or even sometimes just training, there would always be some of his students, but there would always be somebody visiting.
Yeah, of course.
And he would always welcome them, and never charge them. It's just always come on in, and
Wow. Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Michael Cormack on one of these podcasts, and he mentioned Ramos Park as where he began.
Yes, he's like probably the generation's a bad word. The level before me.
Yeah.
He's not much older than me, but he started before me. And he's
of course. Yeah, he talks very fondly, and I understand he was at the funeral as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, we saw each other. The nice, the beauty of a funeral is that some people you just don't get to see often enough.
Yeah, that's right. It's so true.
So true. But so that's how we met, and that's I feel that his approach to teaching was never negative. It was always positive. He never said you got it wrong. He's like, very good, but try this way. Try this way. And I know my first time, the very first private lesson, he had me I'm always nervous, and I was when I'm around grandmasters like that, I'm always walking on eggs as it is.
Oh.
And so I'm trying to learn the sine wave thing, and he's trying to show me how to do a low block, high block, and that gun, and he's like, I just can't get the down up thing, and he's laughing. And at one point, I can't remember the pattern anymore. And he started, he goes, "Oh, 6-degree black belt, don't know that gun. Maybe we should demote you and start over." I said, "Hey, you can put me in a pink tights and a dress. I'll still train with you. I don't care what I'm wearing." I said, but yeah, that was another humbling moment.
Yeah. So just that ease of being around him, it never made you feel uncomfortable or anything, even if you couldn't get something right?
He made me feel too comfortable, and in a good way.
Yeah.
He would always make you feel like you belonged, because I always considered myself a latecomer. Somebody like Michael Cormack or Case Cookins or a lot of the guys I could mention,
Yeah.
they were there with him in the early days full time. I was with him in the early days part time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to describe, even I think in the ITF, if you knew General Choi here, or General Che, if you prefer, whichever way, if you met him here, then you knew him here in Taekwondo here. But if you met him here, then you knew Taekwondo him here, because things were evolving.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And in the early days, Grandmaster Park was always, like I said, always a gentleman, always kind. But he, being with General Choi so much, had a certain way of doing things. Like he would call and say, we need to do a commercial in the morning in Toronto. You mean like tomorrow morning? Yes. Or if you're traveling with him, we would be up, really late, 2 o'clock in the morning, training and teaching and wherever. And then he's 5 o'clock in the morning, he'd call you, he goes, Master Garino, we should be thinking about breakfast. I'd be like, yes, sir. When would you like me down there? Oh, I'm waiting, so he had a little bit of that in him too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But he was, I think in the later times, he was a little bit more understanding of Taekwondo not maybe being the full-time thing for everybody.
Sure.
Possibly it was a side thing or a part-time thing.
Yeah.
He made room for those that it was a hobby, and he made room for those that it was they were, masters and instructors.
Yeah, yeah.
So he would say things sometimes. I remember we were talking one day and he said, yeah, well, he didn't like compliments a lot.
Right.
And the little joke that I had with one of my friends, another student of his, sometimes I would call him on the way home from the dojo. And for me, it's about a 15-20 minute drive. But the conversation that he was about to have with me was a 2-hour conversation. So I'd be sitting in my driveway in my car, and I'm thinking, I got to get my kid to bed. And so all I had to do was say, oh, Grandmaster Park, I forgot to tell you, I was just watching the video of you, and oh my God, when you did, I started complimenting him. He was, oh, okay, thank you, Master. It's time to go. So if I needed to get off the phone, I just had to lay out some heavy duty compliments because he would get uncomfortable. Right. So he was just the opposite. So yes. He would say things. I remember one time we were talking about, he was complimenting me, and I'm like, sir. And he said, no, you're just like me. And I said, no, sir. I said, I could have grown up in the house next to you, ate the same food that you ate, trained like you trained, did what you did, and you'd still be you, and I'd still be me. And there's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah.
He would yell at me. So he goes, no, stop. So he couldn't take a compliment, but he sure could get it.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess if you look back to his upbringing and the way he grew in Taekwondo, I mean, national champion in 1964. I've read this, and he went to Germany initially, and then Holland.
Yes.
And then 68 Canada.
Yes. And
this is where you get the pioneer, isn't it?
All those tours that he did, especially, and again, I'm going to say this in a nice way. I think the word pioneer is kind of overused nowadays.
Sure.
I believe those guys that were with General Che, when they first went out, those are the true pioneers. And some of the stories that he would tell me, I sat there in total awe. But even so much as his humble upbringings, a house that was pretty much a dirt floor and not having a whole lot of things. But he just lived, I don't know, I can't say when it happened, but he used to live in this world of such a high standard.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, I said, how did you get so good? I mean, you grew up in a time when you were eating like dirt and seaweed and rice, and look at you, I can't imagine if he had grown up in today's world with an athlete's diet and trainers. What would he have been like, right? You know, so he would tell me stories about, you know, he goes, I'm not very proud of this. He goes, but, you know, we would go to construction sites and we would steal like bags of cement and put poles in them and use those to lift weights. We would make weights out of this. And he would tell me about how he would have, you know, as a child, overcome all this being so poor. And so immediately you got the sense, you know, he credited his mother with giving him a lot of his mental strength.
Yeah.
And but you could see somewhere in there was something different about his way of thinking, that while most people were thinking on this level as being good and then this level being great, he's already kind of thinking like this is normal.
Yeah.
And to think about, well, like I said, you know, what was it like when you're in the army? You know, he goes, my friends would, you know, take all their money on the weekends and their nights off, and they would head into the village and party up and do this and drink. And he goes, I would just send my money home to my mother and just stay and train all night.
Wow.
I mean, like, and then I said, all night? He goes, I would just train all night. They party till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I train till 4 o'clock in the morning. So I think that somewhere along the way, he just, you know, must have fallen in love with Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And you know, just decided that somewhere in his way of thinking that he was just going to be the best or his best.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe you don't maybe know this about me, but I used to be a professional trumpet player, and when Taekwondo was my hobby.
Yeah, I saw that. I did read that about yourself. Yeah.
And I used to say this about some trumpet players, and then it kind of hit me about Taekwondo and probably a lot of other things. But you know, in the world, there's good trumpet players, or there's good Taekwondoists, there's great Taekwondoists, there's amazing Taekwondoists, and then there's kind of this gap of nothing, and then there's just a couple of guys above that gap. You know, he was up there, and a couple of other guys that I would put up there, but it's a hard way for a normal human to think. And I know I make him sound like he's a super god and a Superman, but he sort of was.
Yeah.
And I know we were in Argentina and doing some seminars, and much to his dismay, I don't play golf. And so the host took him to some really nice golf course. And I stayed back and I trained. So he was out partying and I'm training, you know. And he got back. I didn't see him. I saw the hosts, and I said, hey, did you let the big guy win? And they said, let him win. He killed everybody at the club. So then I go to see Grandmaster Park. I go, hey, I heard you did pretty good. He's like, oh, no, it's terrible.
Really?
I had to let people's clubs take me sometimes 2-3 shots to get on the green. He's just like, so he's thinking they're thinking he's amazing. And in his mind still,
Yeah.
not good. It's just not his way of thinking ever. Right. So I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, well, I said, they told me you did okay. And he's like, they don't know, you know.
Yeah. So a natural ability to take his hand to most things, I guess.
And I was always surprised by how many things he knew about. We would talk about coffee, and he invested in coffee. I didn't know about that. And he had a mink farm. You know, I mean,
yeah.
It's just like every time you talk about something, he goes, oh yes, when I said, you know, we were talking about feeling the fear and doing it anyways. I said, I said, I just wanted to jump out of an airplane with a parachute and see what it was like. But I said, I really was scared. He goes, oh yes, when I was skydiving, I'm like, yeah, you know. Or when I was scuba diving, it's like, I said, what didn't you do? He's like, I try everything, you know, and kind of a very unique life.
Yeah.
I think Taekwondo and his travels afforded him many opportunities.
Sure. New countries, new countries. Yeah, I guess that, like you said, different people would experience that in a different way. For him, I guess it was just an opening up of these opportunities.
Yeah, maybe just, you know, here's something I get a chance to be good at.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to me, here's something I get to try. I don't know. It's
yeah.
So, a lot of times during our private lessons, we would take little breaks just to sit down and talk about things. And these are the moments that I probably cherish most, is he would tell me about, his upbringing and how much he really cared about his mom and his travels with the general. And when he would do that, I could see both of those experiences, both of those influences in him.
Yeah.
Hard, rigid, general, just that, unyielding loyalty and that militaristic outlook.
Yeah.
That to see him, take a child by, off to the side, just work with them without, I posted a picture once of this little boy. He was holding a paddle. Just had this little guy in there giving a little private lesson to him, out of nowhere. And, I just thought, does this little guy even have the faintest idea, what a moment this is?
It's right. Yeah.
But that's just the kind of guy he was. And I don't know if people got to see that part of him because he was always on display.
Sure.
And he's always fighting, and he always had, proof that I was at a seminar and I got to try to sign one of my books, and Grandmaster Park was there, and he said, "You're lucky." He goes, "That was my best."
Wow.
And so I said, "Hey, do you know John Troy called you his best?" Oh, he said everybody. He just said that everybody. And he never could. Master Park could never really take a compliment and just let it go. He always had.
Right. Yeah, because that was what was explained to me after meeting him. Someone took me to the side and said, "Do you know who that was?" And I was like, and they explained, and he said he's the best at sparring, the best at this, best at patterns, best at flying, everything,
Yeah, I mean, to see a man that big get off the ground like that and move that fast. There's that video. A lot of people think it's kind of fake, but there's a video of him doing some self-defense things in a ring in a demonstration. The gentleman's wearing a double chest protector and ended up in the hospital after that. Broken ribs. I mean, just from the demo.
Yeah.
If you demoed with him, you got to get ready to be hit. He'd hit you. And one of my friends, his master of ballet, was supposed to do that demonstration, but during the practices, his shoulder got ripped out of its joint. And that was just, you could tell Grandmaster Park always happy, but when he got that one look in his eye, the eyes would close a little bit. He'd look and he was in the zone, and then, it was lights out for everybody else. If
Yeah, for sure.
But he just, I don't know. I just never met anybody like him. Again, just so approachable. So the very first time my wife met him,
yeah,
we were in Toronto, and I think it was the weekend we got engaged. And I said, we got to go see Mr. Park. So we walk in. We walk downstairs to the dojo, and he's sitting on a couch with his leg up. His left knee was always kind of torqued, and he goes, "Oh, hello, Master." And I introduced him to my wife, Tika. He goes, "Oh, come here." He goes, he had his pant leg pulled up, and he goes, "Put your hand on my knee." And he looks at me. The man says, "Put your hand on your knee, put your hand on his knee." So she touches his knee, and she says, "Oh, it feels kind of warm." She goes, "Maybe it's infected." He goes, "Oh, yeah, doctors say probably so." He goes, "I think no." He goes, "Well, let's go to lunch." So we started the lunch. He pulls out a golf putter, and he's using it for a cane. I go, "Should you be on crutches? You look pretty bad." He's like, "Oh, yes, doctor says probably yes." But he goes, "I think no." We go to lunch, and his shoe unties, and his knee, he can't get down to tie his shoe. So I get up and I kneel down and start tying his shoe, and he slaps me on the head, and I look up, and he goes, "The mouse does not always have to take care of the elephant." I was like, I can't even argue. I said, "I don't know what the hell that means." He goes, "Get up." So he just, I know he waited on General Che like that.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't for him.
No.
So, I'm hoping these kind of moments are what you're kind of looking for, because.
So, yes, it's wonderful insight for people to know the true character of someone, like you say, because if you look at the achievements, you could think it's a different type of person, the fierceness of the sparring, you know, to win in 1964 in that, what must have been full contact in Korea.
Yes.
And him doing the reverse turning kick that no one else was doing and knocking these guys out.
Yeah, he told me when they first started doing that one, but he said when they would travel, you know, the Japanese, and no offense to the Japanese, they would line up in that rigid stance and they're coming straight in.
Yeah.
He would start bouncing, and then you could see their eyes like, what's he doing? And he said they would come charging in. He would jump up and like spinning hook kick them, and they would stop and look. And he said it was at that moment I knew they couldn't even see my foot, and I was no longer worried. I didn't have to hurt anybody, and I could win without making Taekwondo look bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I can give you third-party stories of people that when they first met him and just were taken so aback because these were world champions and kickboxing champions and all these people that just thought they were something. And there's a gentleman in Canada, I won't mention their name, but he was kickboxing champion. He had a real big attitude, walked in when the Grandmaster Park was working out and didn't bow and had an attitude. And Grandmaster Park said, you know, you'd like to do some training. He goes, oh, I'm Canadian champion. He goes, oh, that's okay. He goes, uniforms are in back, put one on. And these are Grandmaster Park's words. He said he was not really good. And he goes, I tried to shock him. I didn't want to hurt him. I just want to shock him. And you hear the other person tell it. He goes, he beat the living daylight out of me. He said, after I was done, I bowed. And I bowed deeply. And he became a student. But in the meantime, this gentleman went out and was telling everybody, oh, you got to see this John Park guy. He's a tough guy. Oh, my God, is he tough? Master Park didn't speak very good English. He didn't know what tough guy meant. He got mad. And he goes, I pounded my fist. He goes, bring him back. I will crush him into the earth. I am not a tough guy. And then one of his students goes, sir, that's a good thing. And he's like, he's a bad guy or something.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So he goes, oh. And then he became one of his students.
Right, right.
A lot of people became a student after they experienced his presence, his abilities. There, you know, at some point, there's a gentleman, his name is Francois Bellet, from Switzerland, and he lives in Canada. And he met Grandmaster Park on day 2 of when Grandmaster Park was in Canada. He was
right
training in the YMCA, and Master Bellet was sort of a judo karate guy. He gave up on that karate because he goes, it was just too stiff and rigid. I wanted to be like a boxer. And Master Bellet is a big guy too, like Grandmaster Park. And he goes, I walked up, I heard this noise. I walked over, I saw this guy in a blue running suit hitting the heavy bag. And the heavy bag was at a 45-degree angle, just front leg, just held that bag up. He just kept hitting. He's like, he saw him moving around. He goes, that's what I want to do. So Master Park turned around and waved him in. And his English was terrible, non-existent. And so they sort of figured out what was going on. They trained a little bit, and Master Bellet says we shook hands, and we've been best friends ever since. So it's something you might want to check him out too, because he's got insights that I wouldn't have.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, wonderful. I mean, again, when they were telling me about Grandmaster Park, they did say that, that there was this seminar, I think it's in Europe. It was like an IIC. It was 2.5 days. It started off with 150 people on day 1, I think. Then day 2, it was down to 100. And then by the end of it, there was 20 people left. I don't know if you heard anything similar to that, or.
Yeah, I mean, that would happen on the weekends, the weekend training.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty intense. And he would always teach at that high level.
Yeah.
Then you would just see some people like they were too sore the next day to come in, or too embarrassed, or whatever. Yeah, but by the end, it would be dwindled down. Towards the end, then we did a seminar. You know, with COVID and stuff, they really screwed a whole lot of things up. I'm thinking it was. By the way, my timelines are terrible. all my life runs together into 1 year. So
Yeah,
I may get my years wrong here. My wife, she's like, how could you forget that? It's like, I don't know. It's, when did we buy that house? But I'm thinking 2018, he's 17, I think 17, 2017, he was holding a tournament. And we did a seminar. He had a couple other grandmasters come in. And, the first half of the seminar, everybody's going at it. By the break, some people didn't come back after the break.
yeah.
He goes, did I say something wrong? I said, no, sir. And he goes, I must have offended somebody. Because people are returning. I said, no, sir, they're just chicken. I said, they gave up.
Yeah.
Why would they give up? In your mind, you're giving them all you got. In their mind, you're mad at them, or you're making, it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't even know back in those days what that one might have been like. I can only imagine. He sometimes, it's confusing because like sometimes he would just think everybody should be able to do what he did.
Yeah.
Because there's all those pictures of him doing flying, side kicks coming down on people that are 6 feet tall. And he goes, there's too many people, they jump up and kick up when they're doing flying side kicks. You gotta jump up and come down.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? So I said, we're all working on it, sir, but don't count on it. And then one day I was walking to his dojo for my lesson, and he's standing there with his arms folded. He's looking at this picture of him doing that. He goes, who else can do that? I said, I only know one person that can do that, sir. He goes, who might that be? And I just kind of looked at him. I said, you fishing for compliments? He's like, let's go train. I mean, it's just like, but I think sometimes he would look back and, I think I think he would have probably been about 75 at this point. He's probably looking back and like we all do, go, yeah, I used to be able to do that,
Yeah, of course.
And this picture of me doing a flying sidekick, breaking boards on my wall here. Somebody did an artwork, and the kids are going, "Can you still do that?" I'm like, "Just once." It's like, if I did that stuff now, I said I'm gonna be able to teach you. But so I think sometimes he'd look back and just kind of think, "Man, maybe I was okay."
Yeah. So it sounds like he didn't really have an ego that you felt from him, even though he could have one, if you know what I mean.
He should have had one because a lot of people took advantage of him because he really was very kind. I look at ego two different ways. Like ego is good because you need one if you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
You have to have an ego to say, I want to be the best. And he had that. And then I think the great ones, the ego becomes confidence, and the confidence then becomes kindness.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure in your travels, you met some masters and grandmasters who were very adept and like not the kind of people you want to be.
Yeah.
And then you've met some that can't do anything and they're all a bunch of talk. I'm happy, proud, or lucky to say that sometimes I'll be conversing with other masters and they're talking this and they're saying, I'm sure you've gone through this with ITF people. Their way's the right way, and that's the only way, which is why it's so divisive sometimes. And I would just say, well, my instructor's got Grandmaster Park Jong Soo, and they'd say, oh, they just stop talking. Even people who didn't get along with it sometimes would say, there was an instructor, one of his instructors from the old days, they had sort of a rough breakup. And even he would just say, you know what? He goes, we don't see eye to eye. He said, but you are so lucky. And if you want to know Taekwondo, you got it,
Yeah.
So I think that he could have had an ego and it just never, like I said, I didn't know him in 1964 when he won the Korean national champion. But I just don't have that sense because anybody I talk to, they would always mention that he was kind. And
exactly.
That's the part that a lot of people never ever got to see, and I was blessed with.
Yeah.
You know, we were going to Korea and Japan for some seminars. My wife was with us, and I had brought, I don't know, about 12 of my students.
Wow.
And, so we did, you know, so long story short, my wife and I were trying to have a baby. And we didn't know at the time she was pregnant going over to.
Right.
Well, of course, you know, she's eating raw food, everything she's not supposed to eat, but so I came back and we found out, we took the test as soon as we got home just to check, and boom, there it was. And I caught, because Grandmaster Park was, when are you gonna have a child? Well, he kept saying, when are you going to have a son? When are you going to have a son? And I said, what if it's a girl? He goes, you're gonna have a boy. Don't worry, you're gonna have a boy. And, so I called him up. I said, hey, guess what? I said, you know, Tika's pregnant. And he goes, oh, this is such good news. He goes, oh, whoa, wait a minute. He goes, I need to ask you a question. I said, what? He goes, did the baby come to Korea with us? Or was the baby made in Korea? Whoa, sir. I go, that's, you know, it's kind of personal question. He goes, it's very important. I said, I believe that the baby came to Korea with us. He said, oh, he goes, wow, that officially makes me his Korean grandfather. I go, yeah, you're right, sir. I go, well, you said, you know, my dad's dad. I go, you could be his real grandfather. He goes, oh, he goes, that makes me very happy. He goes, well, he goes, then, you know, I get to pick the name. And I'm thinking, oh boy, Jong Soo. I'm like, okay, yes, sir. He goes, well, I have another question for you. What name does your wife want to make the baby? I go, well, she wants to name it after me if it's a boy. He goes, that's what I was going to pick. So that will be his name. Sure enough, that was his name. And, you know, I think, again, his presence is so big. So Tika, my wife, would train also in Toronto. She was with him a lot. And we had meals. We would just go up there for lunch. And in her womb, I think my boy is hearing his voice. And this is no lie. We walked into this restaurant to have them meet for the first time. And I think I posted a picture on Facebook, and Charlie just put his arms out.
Wow. Yeah.
Went right to him and hugged him, and it was like amazing. I said, "Oh my God, he never goes to anybody. He'd never leave his mother." And you know, and I'll send you the picture. This was the grandmaster smile of all, you know, so happy.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw him alive, he was so weak he couldn't get out of bed, and he was laying there, and we were talking, and finally I would go, and I would go on one day, stay a night, and so I could be another day with him.
Yeah.
So the last time I saw him, he's you should go home to your wife and Charlie now. And I said, yes, sir. I said, you know, can I speak frankly? He goes, of course. I said, I've got them forever. I said, I'm going to lose you soon, you know. And he said, no. They need you now. You should go home to them. I said, sir, it's okay. He goes, Master, you know, what I'm telling you is to leave me alone. And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, I will call Charlie tomorrow. And I really, you know, he was kind of in and out because of the morphine and stuff. So I just, you know, I let it sit. And then 11 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings at home, and I see John Park. And I'm thinking, oh God, no, don't tell me. I thought his wife was calling me. And sure enough, it was him. And I wish I would have been ready for this, because the conversation he had with my little 5-year-old was the best.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's him.
Such ease of his own being, wasn't he? From what you're saying, at ease with himself.
What grandmaster calls a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
Who's dying.
Yeah. Such presence of mind. Yeah.
Said I'm going to do it. I do it.
Yeah.
You know, both my wife and I are just sitting there in tears.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, my 5-year-old's like, when do we get to spar? You know, when you know, he's just like, you know, your grandmaster saying, you're going to be the next king. He goes, you will be the next Korean champion. He's yes, sir. My son, he has very good attitude. He goes, yes, sir. And like, you know, he goes, and you have to listen to your daddy, and you have to listen to your mommy. And he's going, and my son's like, when do we eat kimchi? You know, he's just like, So after the phone calls, I said, Charlie, I said, you know, I wish I would have recorded this. I said, because you have no idea what you were just blessed with.
Yeah, of course.
So youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, and for your son, like you say, it's just a familiar call to him, isn't it? And
yeah,
someone he knew so well, you know.
It's just one story. I mean, I could tell you how hard it hurt when he hit me when he was older. You know, I could tell you how much, you know, the strength and the power and the fortitude and all the things that he would do. But, you know, the things that are going to hold in my mind. I mean, the only time he got mad at me, because it used to bother me. I thought a lot of times I felt like his students took him for granted, which happens. I mean, you're teaching every day, your students just sort of not take advantage of you, take you for granted, you know. And so we would go out all the time after training with some of his higher ranks, and they would never pay. I would never let him pay. I'm thinking, he get mad. He goes, I said, sir, you're teaching me for free. I said, you know, he goes, yeah, but you got you have hotel, you're coming. I said, I'm training with you. I said, there's no way you're buying no way. And so he called me up and he goes, Master Gibbons, you can't pay anymore. You make, I said, sir, you can't pay. He goes, and you collect money from those other people because you are not paying anymore. Right. And so I was out with him, with his wife, myself, Tika, my wife, and two of their friends. And I knew he was going to pay again. And so I just got up and went to the bathroom and I paid for the check before I got to the table. We came to the table and he asked for the check, and she said, it's all taken care of. I mean, he looked at me and I never saw this one before. He goes, excuse me. So he got him, he went outside. I said, I really do have to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. And I came back and he's pacing outside the door, back and forth, back and forth. I looked at his wife and I go, ma'am, what's he so upset about? He goes, he's mad at you. It's like, okay. That's the way I said, is there a back door out of here? But that's the only time I ever saw him get mad at me. But that's the kind, again, the kind of, he always valued his teaching Taekwondo as his mission. Right. So whether he was getting paid or not, he's going to do it. And I think one of the hallmarks, or one of the things that I've always noticed, my students began to notice, because again, we were blessed. He would come down and do seminars. When I have a tournament, he would come down and do a seminar the night before. So we got a lot of him. And he never said, I think you should do it this way. I think my way, do it. He always said, General Choi said to do this. General Choi said to do that. I always say General Choi because he always said General Choi. And never once would he ever put him in never first person. Always General Choi showed me this. General Choi said to do that. And so he never took credit. Even he would talk about, but he invented this, reverse turning kick, spinning reverse turning kick. He said, I was at General Choi's house, and I said, I was practicing. I did this kick, and I said, General Choi, come look at this. And so he did it. And General says, okay, do it again. And he started writing things down because General Choi was a prolific writer. Write it down. He goes, okay, Jong Soo, go to bed. He goes, I need knocks on my door. Jong Soo, get up. So I'd wake up. He goes, come down here. He goes, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Okay, go to bed. He goes, a half hour later, Jong Soo, come back down. He goes, do it again. Do it again. And he just said all night he was trying to figure out how to describe how to do it. And he didn't want to call it a hook kick. And, he said he just wanted to make sure that he's. So I said, well, you invented the kick. He goes, yeah, I guess maybe I did. He goes, but General Choi, he's the one that made it part of Taekwondo. And again, back to General Choi, So I said, well, I think then every time I do Choi Young, I'll be thinking of you getting up all night long, spinning hook kicks, turning kicks, reverse turning kicks, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I read that in the in Alex Gillies' book, the book about Taekwondo fighting. fighting art, and yeah, it's there for everyone to read it as well. Yeah. So yeah, again, if you look at the history, the early days, at a very young age, he was teaching the Korean police, their special police task force, the Tiger Division.
Military, yeah.
This was real serious.
That's real stuff, and it's so young.
Yeah.
This isn't like some 40-year-old, combat tested, salty guy. This is,
yeah,
they probably looked at him and said, "Oh my God," and it's funny how you experience something and then you think back to a story, and because the people he were teaching were probably some of the most feared fighters in the world.
Yeah.
Here's this gentle giant who at the time, I mean, again, who knows what he was like then? I mean, I can't imagine that he was quite as gentle or quite as, I think in order to be, because I look at pictures of him then and there's less softness in his eye. He's got a little more of that eye of the tiger kind of look in his face, more serious. But yeah, I think I was fortunate enough. I got drafted, but when I got drafted, the U.S. draft ended for Vietnam as I got drafted. So I got drafted and then I got put on hold. I didn't have to go, but my friends that went to Vietnam said that the guys from the Rock Army, the Koreans, they said they were just insanely trained. So they said, well, that's the kind of guys that my instructor put out,
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, my one friend, his job was to take the mail go down to the bottom of the hill, get the mail and bring it up to the top of the hill. So before he drive down, some of the Korean guys would say, look, can we go down with you? And they got dropped off halfway down, 3 of them. You go get the mail and come back up, and they'd be sitting there with about 20 helmets and rifles and stuff.
Right.
So you think about Master Park being part of that at such a young age. Again, there's that level of excellence that's, I don't want to say unheard of, but I just, when I teach my students, I said, well, first we got to try to be your best. Then you got to try to be the best. I said, then you got to be the best of the best. I just think that hit him way earlier than most people.
Yeah, sure.
Now that he's gone, because I of course I'll be telling a ton of stories. I always talk about Grandmaster Park in my classes because, I said, in order for us to learn something, it has to be in your head first. You can't have a perfect sidekick or you can't have a perfect stance unless it's in your head first perfectly.
Yeah.
I said, how blessed are we that we have the man, come down and teach us. And I said, I get to go up there and just spend, hours upon hours and days with him. This is a blessing. So, I've always talked about him from, every day. And of course, we'll be talking more about him now. My friend, Master Zhang in Pittsburgh, and myself, I'm hoping others. My mission now is to cement his place in history and to begin to document as much as we can.
Yeah.
All of the things, because I have stories that, I saw, I have stories that he told me. I know there are people that, are around, like I said, the guys in the earlier days, Master Francois Ballet, there are people out there that, this all needs to be put together.
Yeah.
Because there just won't ever be another. I don't think there's going to be another one of him. I don't think the world can produce people like him anymore.
Right.
It can produce great athletes, but they have attitudes. It can produce great men, but they're not great athletes. This combination that he was.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's possible to come up with another one.
Yeah. No, it's so true. You do need to document this, and because there's students that, since I've done my podcasts, there's names I'm saying, and my students are picking up on. They had no idea who we're talking about, but they're gaining so much to hear this. The history.
Right.
Because you talk about the tenets and the Do. It's easier for people to understand when they hear about a character like Grandmaster Park and how he affected other people like yourself. And
you can't find anybody who will ever say he wasn't a gentleman or he wasn't kind or he wasn't understanding. You know, you just can't find that. And I had a really touching moment with him when we were in Korea. We went to Jeju Island. It was kind of nice. So we went to Jeju Island. We're on his tour bus, and it's him, myself, 4 Canadian students. I think I had 12 of mine. And we're going to General Choi's monument. And, you know, we're all getting our bucks on, and, you know, and the people on the bus like, what the hell's going on? And I said, you got to hold the bus. You just don't move the bus. So we all got off the bus. And then we did Fodong and Chunji, in front of the monument, which is like great, right? And, you know, here's Fodong, 29th Division, right in front of the monument on Jeju Island. This is like, oh, and I look at Grandmaster Park, and he's got a tear in his eye. And I'm like, sir, you okay? He goes, this is the first time I've seen this monument ever. And I thought for sure he would have seen it a million times. This is the very first time he saw it. Wow. He said, this is terrible. He goes, they're not taking care of it. He said, we have to start raising money. He goes, and the first thing he did, he got back to the hotel. He's on the phone calling government officials saying, we got to fix this. That monument's got to be cleaned up. We got to get a fence around. And that became one of his goals.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, there it is about General Choi. He didn't want a monument. He, you know, he might have went for the founder. Yeah,
and obviously the relationship and bond that you're talking about yourself with Grandmaster Park, he had that with General Che.
Yeah, I really do think so. I mean, I read things about maybe they argued, and they must have argued a little bit because you're on the road with somebody. I mean, when I was a musician on the road, you had arguments. But I wasn't afraid to ever question him.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't have to be afraid. I was so careful on how I would question him because I'm a firm believer in respect. People think it's funny. I have a greatest hit list of my teachers that have influenced me in my life, starting from kindergarten up, because I really believe that teachers are a huge influence in your life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have certain hallmark teachers and what part of life they taught me. And so I was always very careful when I would approach him about asking a question. So my usual way would be to send him an email and say, I have a question about this. Yeah. And I'm going to call you later on today or tomorrow. And if you don't mind, can we discuss this? So that I wouldn't blindside him, or I just wanted him to have time to think about what we were going to discuss, whether it was a Taekwondo question or a question about life. He taught me really about holding my tongue a little bit, because I can be more upfront than I need to be sometimes, right. Which has kept me, well, you'll always know where you stand with me, but you might not, you know, I always tell people when you walk in my office, my door is always open. You might not like what you hear when you get in here, but, you know, I always listen. Yeah. But he taught me to be very understanding. So I was practicing Poen. And I was always taught Poen when you were doing the U-shaped grip, that you were in a fixed stance. And I was looking at the book and I'm like, the book says L stance. So he was getting ready to go to a seminar in Australia. And I thought, I said, you know, sir, and so I wrote the email and I said, you know, and I was going up for a lesson that weekend. He goes, we'll talk about it when you come up. So I went up there and he goes, I was always taught fixed stance. I go, me too. I said, but the book says L stance. He goes, really? So he pulls out the book and he goes, it is L stance. He goes, I've been doing it wrong. I said, no, you've been doing it your way. I said, that's the way you were taught. And I said, that's the way I was taught. So I said, what do you want to do? I said, I'll do whatever you want to do, because you're my instructor. Whatever you say, that's law. He goes, no, General Choi book say L stance, we do L stance. That's it. So he was always, you know, that kind of,
yeah.
He was always open. He wasn't infallible. And I know sometimes towards in the later years, we'd be doing seminars and people would be bombing him with questions, and I could see he would get a little confused, and he'd kind of look at me, and, you know, I would always say, sir, I think they want to know this. Oh, okay. You know, but he was not, like I said, he was never afraid to like look towards me if he needed a reminder or something. Like, I never that ego again.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, thank you for, you know, for doing that. Yeah. I said, you know, I always got your back. don't ever doubt that, and it's so and again, even if you go through, I always call it the Taekwondo Bible. You know, there's all the new editions, but I tell my students, you look at those editions, the early editions, I go, that's him, that's him, that's him, that's him.
Yeah.
I said, when the politics got involved, he's not in the book anymore, but I said, it was all him. And, I said, as much as Taekwondo has a history, it's him. The founder is the founder. I mean, people can argue about that and whatever. I don't want to even get into that. But as far as I'm concerned, he's the founder. And, guys like Nam Tae, and, he matured to develop a Grandmaster Park. He was the person who brought it to the world the best way possible. So good looking, so handsome.
Yeah.
Perfect specimen of a body. Won every fight, never lost, never hurt anybody. You never read about a scandal about him.
No.
He was a perfect ambassador for Taekwondo to become the most popular art in the world.
Yeah.
So, I tell my students, no matter what, he is the reason Taekwondo, one of the reasons. I mean, I'm not taking away from guys like, Ricky Ha. I'm not taking away from anybody else. Because even when I talk to those guys, they always talk about Grandmaster Park like this, right? And, sometimes I'm just like a little kid, just sit back and listen to them talk and just, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more about my instructor. I want to hear this.
Did you see Grandmaster Park talk to the other grandmasters? Did he ever speak with them? Did you see that?
Yes. I mean, so at his seminars or sometimes dinners after tournaments and things, his interaction with them was very respectfully casual, respectfully comfortable.
Yeah.
And always properly introduced us to them. I am very, very big on respect. My students, they're often told by other masters and grandmasters, he goes, your students they can relax. They don't have to be so formal. And it's like, no, they do have to be so formal.
Yeah.
And, but Grandmaster Park would always take time to introduce all the grandmasters to my students. And he always knew they were going to look good. But his interactions with them, me being me, when they would start to talk, I would, unless I was invited back in, I would back out.
Yeah.
So I felt that was their table now. And a couple of times when I was asked to sit at the table, and I would just, I'm gonna breathe so they can't even see my chest move. I'm just gonna make them think I'm dead here, so there's no. I would say, "What do you think?" And I'd be like, "So far, you have not said anything I wouldn't agree with, but if you do, I'll chime in, sir." And just like but he was very passionate.
Yeah.
I did. He had moments where he was felt strongly about things, and I don't think he would mind me telling the story. Wish he was around so I could ask him. But we were at a meeting at one of his tournaments. He said, "I want to have a pizza meeting, and we are going to have a discussion about the future of Taekwondo and working together." And his whole thing was about working together. And so we're in this meeting, and he's talking, and one of his friends, who was I won't mention their name, interrupted him. He was a master, and he interrupted him. He said, "Grandmaster Park, if I may," and he stood up and started talking. Now I know at this point, not good. Grandmaster Park is on this side of me. This guy's on this side of me, and I just start pushing my chair back because I don't want to be in the middle of this, and I don't even want my facing Grandmaster Park's memory of what the situation was. I don't even want to be known to have been in the room. And the guy said, he goes, "Master, how many students do you have?" I said, "I don't know, about 300. He goes, "Well, you're bringing 300 students to this tournament." He goes, "Master, how many students do you have?" "I have 200. "Well, you're bringing 200 students." So he's going around telling me, and then Master Park, look, I saw the eyes, and he just slammed the table. And of course, the pizza went flying and everything. He goes, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. sit down. You are not going to tell people what they have to do. I was like, so that was like, I saw him be very passionate about somebody else telling us what we're going to do. He's like, these people are my guests. Nobody, and this was his friend.
Yeah.
So tell them, what they should do. So he did have that part.
Yeah. So was that a shock for everyone? Was that a shock for you, or you saw it coming?
I seen it a couple of times, so I knew it was coming. And so I just kind of backed out. Oh yeah, everybody at that point is, at that point it was now his meeting because nobody was going to say anything. And I'm just kind of sitting back smiling a little bit because I'd seen a little bit of that where he didn't like something like along those lines. He was so, he was not a politician at all, but he was smart. So we were talking about, I made a little video for him. My students, we put a video together, and it said, April 11th, 1955, Taekwondo is accepted. And he calls me up, he goes, Mr. Reno, can we take off the April 11th, 1955 thing? I said, why, sir? He goes, well, I said, as far as I'm concerned, that's the birthday of Taekwondo. Every April 11th, the dojo, we sing happy birthday Taekwondo. And he goes, yes, but there are some people out there who do not believe that. He goes, and I'm really trying to get people to work together. And if I go in there and I say, you have to believe what I say, then it's me telling them what to do. And it's not me saying, let's work together.
Right.
I said, that's very smart. So I said, I totally will take it off. I don't think we should have to. I said, I don't think that this is something that's, could be considered our opinion. I said, but I will definitely take it off. Because at that point, he was trying to really, he said, I want WTF people to come to us. We're not going to tell them what to do. I want to teach them. And if they decide our way is a better way, then we will accept them. And I want karate people. I want everybody can come train with us. And if they don't think we're the best, then we've done something wrong and we don't deserve them. But I don't want to tell people, this is the date. This is how you do it. We're better. You're wrong. I want to bring people in.
Yeah.
And I think I used to tell him, I said, sir, this is like mission impossible. He goes, maybe. He said, but it's my mission. And, he said, General Choi, one world, one Taekwondo, one world, one Taekwondo. That's all I'm going to keep working for.
Yeah.
And as you know, he resigned from the ITF when he felt he couldn't, that the politics were getting in the way of the unification of people.
Yeah.
He told me, he said, I felt very bad about that. He said, but too many people looking for the wrong thing. He said, one world, one Taekwondo. It's not a Korean thing. It's a worldwide thing. And we have to make sure that we present ourselves that way everywhere we go.
Yeah.
And, that if we're going to appear, I forgot the word he used, forceful. It was forceful. If we appear like we're demanding, then he said, we'll just be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So he was pretty smart in that. And, I feel bad because one of, a lot of our talks, his organization was called the Allied International Taekwondo Council, the AITC. And we were working so hard to try to get that to the point where it was able to affect change.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to sound like you don't know your stuff. A couple of years ago, he got really sick and had a heart attack and a stroke. And I don't know if how much of the world knows that, but his left knee, he had it drained. And a couple of weeks later, he said, he goes, something doesn't feel right. And I said, well, go to the doctor. I won't get political, but certain healthcare systems, they don't care about the old people so much.
Right.
So then he kept saying his leg was hurting, and then my hip is hurting. I said, sir, I said, you should go to the doctor. And they said, well, they gave me steroids. They think it's arthritis. I said, they think it's arthritis or it is arthritis? He said, well, they said it's going to take about 3 months for this to get better, they said. To make a long story shorter, over time, he's telling me his back is hurting, his neck is hurting. I'm like, sir, you really need to you gotta go to the hospital. I said, I think you're having like an infection or something. And then his wife called me the next day. He had a stroke. He had heart. He just sat up in bed. He couldn't do anything.
Wow.
And she got him to the hospital. So basically, he was septic, and the infection went all through his body. It was in his spine. It was in his brain. It was in his heart. So he had 2 strokes, and he had a heart attack, and he had to have a valve replaced. And so that kind of took the wind out of his sails for a while.
Yeah.
And so the AITC kind of got stagnant. I said, what do you want me to do? I said, I'll do whatever you want. He goes, no, because people were saying, we want this, we want that. And they were asking him to mail certificates out. And, a lot of people were certificate happy. He says, no. He said, no. So, only he could come back from this. The doctors were sure he wasn't going to make it. And, slowly but surely, he's out there in the rehab center teaching Chun-Ji to people. And he comes back, and he's right back. He's back to, going at it. Things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
COVID hits. And I'm really mad at the world, because that's when he got taken away from me, because I couldn't go see him.
Yeah.
We would talk and talk and talk. But even then, because I would say, sir, I have students that I would never bring him students. My students test under me. I'm not, he never wanted my school to be his school.
Right.
He always said, your school is your school.
Yeah.
When I go, you take the torch, you run with it as your school. I do not want you to be a Jong Park school. And he said, you can use my name however you want, but you are Master Garino. This is your school. You've done, So anyways, I would bring, when my students, I felt some of the best ones were ready to go, I'd bring them up to him to test them so they could get a black belt under him too. And which I was glad to do for their benefit, for his benefit. So when we were doing virtual training, I said, sir, I've got some students. We can't come to you. So we can set up I can set up a great array of cameras, and you can test out there. I said, they get to get your certificate, the guys you want to get them. And, just to be blunt, I want to get some test fees coming your way.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope. Said they come and test in front of me personally, or they do not get my black belt.
Right.
Okay, sir. He goes, it'll end soon. I go, it may not end soon, sir. I said, so, every so often I bring it up. I go, give any more thought to that virtual training? He goes, no, I give no more thought to it. Not going to happen. So he was very traditional in that sense. And again, not money hungry, not willing to change his standards.
Yeah.
I mean, test for black belt, you had to go to him. He's not, even though he would come down to things here, he would never test my guys here.
Right.
Always had to be there.
Yeah.
So he had a phrase, what do you always say to me? Oh, Master Garino, good idea, but I might think no.
So you had a lot of humor between the two of you?
Yeah, more than I was comfortable with.
Right.
One time he said something, I knew it was, I looked at him, he goes, Master Garino, it's a joke. Please laugh. I'm like, ha ha ha, sir, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I would laugh at myself if I was doing something, stupid in front of him.
Yeah.
We had some good laughs. I mean, he, when I would do certain things during my lessons or whatever, and he'd laugh. And one time he was doing a seminar here, and I mentioned before, Master Zhang, he came up under a very strict upbringing in Taekwondo. So Master Park was getting ready to do a seminar, and he wanted to talk to me about something. I was micing, I was putting the mic on him and stuff, getting ready. And he said, Master Zhang, get the jumping jacks, get them going. So Master Zhang starts, and he's very rigid. So he's like 15 minutes into jumping jacks. And I'm kind of looking at him, I go, stop. He's like, he's going. And so Master Park gives him a look like, good. And he just keeps going. 30 minutes later, we're still doing jumping jacks. I'm getting old at 30 minutes of jumping jacks. This is kind of rough on my knees. Master Park walks over, he goes, Master Garino. I go, yes, sir. He goes, how the heck do we get him to stop? I was like, so we both started laughing. I go, until you say, Master Zhang, stop. he is not going to stop, you know. So he was, Master Zhang, could you stop, please? Very good job. You know, again, very good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, there was a tournament the next day. All our guys are between the 30 minutes of jumping jacks and the 3.5 hour seminar after. Guys that were going to do juche decided to do, like, you know, I can't hold my leg up anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like, I know some of the stuff sounds like repetitive, but there's just been that repetitive theme in our relationship.
Yeah. No, it's been a wonderful insight into the man, you know, the person that you were describing, and many people to know that and to understand.
One last thing, the man could eat.
Right.
Oh my God. 5 like full meals a day.
Really? Yeah.
I'm not talking 5 little meals. I'm talking he could sit down and eat 2 full chickens. When we were in Korea, Master Ballet was with us. And at one point, because we would do a seminar, drive, eat, drive some more, eat, drive some more, eat, do a seminar, drive. Master Ballet, he's a big guy. He's like, that's it. He has a French accent. He goes, that's it. I cannot get off the bus. We get on the bus, we drive. We get off the bus, we eat. We get on the bus, we drive. We get off the bus, we eat. I can eat no more. So he goes, you go, Master Pike. They have very closest of relationships. He goes, you go eat. I'm done. You know. So Master Park could just eat like I've never seen anybody in my life.
Wow.
It was a joy to watch, because I mean, if I ate like that, I'd be the size of this room. So yeah, and he always had a good formula. He says, your hamstring hurt. He said, you must eat this.
Right.
Tendon. We were in Korea. I started to get a cold. And he goes, no, you can't get sick. He goes, you have abalone porridge in the morning. He had my whole menu for me for the day. I said, sir, I can't eat that much. You must. You will not be healthy. You must eat this.
Right.
So I'd be like, I felt like the kid that your parents said you had to eat before you got up from the table. And it's just, oh my God. But I sure do miss him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much. And
I hope this is kind of what you were looking for. And I hope
very much
all about him.
You told us all about him, you know, and there's been a lot of humor, and that's come through the relationship you had with him. And no, thank you so much for the insights and the sharing of that special relationship you had together.
Definitely, you know, you know, reach out to other people. If I could brag for 1 second, Master Park one day, he said, you're my best student. And I said, sir, all the people you've had that were athletically, no, I'm talking student. He said, I don't care how high you can kick. He said, all those guys that won all those trophies for me, I don't take anything away from them. He goes, but some of them not such good students. So that was my one thing I'll live with forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I hope this comes out the way you like it. And,
yeah, 100%.
Oh,
yeah. Be very well received by all the people that have, you know, responded on Facebook to the posts and to the.
Yeah, there'll be plenty more. I'm going to do my best I've always mentioned him, but I just now think it's more important that we're not going to see him, to make sure that he is front and center as many things as we can. And my friend Master Zhang and I are going to be enlisting some people to hopefully write a book. I have a movie director in my school. We started, this is again, Grandmaster Park real quick. We want to make a movie about him.
Yeah.
You know, a docudrama, you know, something that's going to be entertaining, but true to his life. So we did a teaser and we got everything we did some little stuff. And it said the Jong Soo Park story coming soon. And Grandmaster Park, he goes, but it's not coming soon. Well, sir, that's what they say in the movie to get people like want to invest in. No, we cannot say that. It's going to take a while. I go, yes, sir. He goes, you could say coming someday, but not soon.
Right.
then he goes, Mr. Reno, I'm not very comfortable with a movie being made about me. I said, why not, sir? He goes, because Taekwondo is about General Choi. We should make a movie about him. I said, we can't. He's dead, sir. I said, it's all going to be hearsay. We got you right now. You can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's going to be good looking enough to play me as a youth? I said, I don't know. I said, we'll work on that part. Yeah, he wouldn't even let us do that.
Right, right.
In all respects, sir, now you can't stop me. So
yeah, of course. No, that would be some film, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just yeah. And my wife, who was often reminding me that she would have left me in a heartbeat for him because he was so handsome. She goes, there's nobody you're gonna find good looking enough to play him. Thanks, honey.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those black and white pictures,
Oh,
it's like another Bruce Lee, you could easily see another movie star there.
yeah, but I mean, no offense to Bruce Lee, Master Park had the body of a Greek god.
Yeah.
I mean, he had it all. So, and I can just sit back and just read about it. So, but I'll let you know if we start getting that stuff going. I'll let you know because I shouldn't say if. I'll say when we get that stuff going.
Yeah.
Keep you posted.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for doing this for him. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And just to let you know, I'm sorry I was dodging you there in the beginning, but the family's like, could you kind of hold off? And I said, it's coming. I don't want to tell him no, and I don't want to tell him he's sick because they didn't want people to know how sick he was until they were sure, And then, the Wednesday, I think it was the Wednesday before he died, they said, go ahead and do the interview and let him know.
Wow.
So, I was just trying to.
No, absolutely, sir. No, I appreciate that. I didn't really pick up on that so much, but thank you for explaining it.
Good. I was trying not to let you pick up on that.
I've reached out to many people and some respond fairly quickly and some not so. So I kind of learned to wait a bit.
Yeah, well, go for it and do good by him.
Of course, yeah.
All right. Pleasure meeting.
You too, sir. And hopefully we meet again.
Well, I'm sure we will. And like we say here, Pillsong, certain victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye, sir.